Everybody, I want you to give a warm welcome to our newest guest. He's our newest guest because this is the first time coming on our program, Mr. Jeremy Jackson.
While I was a graduate student, they had money in Iowa to send all their arts management students to New York.
Hmm.
We would go to New York and we would intern.
Mhm.
I'm going to be transparent. What created my organization, Assembly?
Mhm.
A lot of that was philanthropy. This movement to vote yes for arts and culture. That means some 400 arts groups will benefit from $160 million over 10 years.
Giving you motivation for growth. 2 toes down, he keep it realer than most. He do it for the culture, that's always the goal. This is Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell. This is Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell.
Hey, what's up, everybody? You tuned in to another episode of Strategic Moves. I'm your host, Kenn Dowell. This is a place where we bring art, culture, politics, and business all together, and we do it every Sunday right here on this podcast. But when I'm not shooting this podcast, I am the owner of Strategic Resource, where we specialize in public and governmental relations. We've been doing it in this city for over 25 years, and I want to make your next move a strategic move. And this program gives me an opportunity to do just that. We bring on some of the people that I've met along the way. We come on, we share some of our experiences with you, and maybe you just might get something out of it that'll help you in your business or personal life. So, if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, all I need you to do is hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and the notification bell as well, so that you will know the next time this program is coming on. So today we're going to get right to it. We had a crazy busy day today, and we're getting through it. And I really appreciate the gentleman that's coming on our show today because we brag about that. This is a place where we bring art, culture, politics, and business all together. And today we get to talk about the arts for a change. So we got the gentleman who runs all the arts here in our town is on our show today. But before we get started with that, let me give a shout out to our podcast producer and the man who makes this shit happen. Ooh, you hear that? I almost got away
Man,
with
is
it.
it dark? Is it after dark
It's
yet?
Kenn Dowell after
Is this
dark.
Kenn after
This
Kenn
is
after
Kenn after
dark?
dark. The man that makes this stuff happen for us right here every time. None other than DJ True. What's happening, brother?
What's going on? What's going on, man?
I don't know, man.
You
Just
finally get the
days.
arts out of your culture, business, and politics, huh?
Yeah, we're gonna get our arts on today, man. We're gonna talk with a gentleman here who's from Cleveland, who runs all the pretty much some of the biggest he don't run the arts, but he helps contribute to some of the art programs here in our town to help keeping these programs afoot and helping small organizations who are in the business of the arts. So we got a gentleman who is in the business of the arts today on our program. How about that?
Wow. Speaking of the arts, man, I know we record this show, but did you know that Missy, Busta Rhymes, and Sierra's in town today?
Really?
Yeah.
Why you ain't
This
got
is
him on the show,
Missy's
man? Mr. Podcast producer extraordinaire. Why ain't Missy Elliott walking in here?
man, there's a lot of politics. There goes your politics in your
Gee.
you got to deal with the politics, but they are in town. This is
Hmm.
Missy's first headlining tour out of all these years. This is
Really?
the first time she had a big headlining tour.
Wow.
Wow. So she's over at the
Rocket Mortgage with Busta Rhymes and Sierra and Timberland is support on that tour.
I heard about it. I didn't know they were here though. Wow.
Yeah, it snuck up on me because I remember I think they announced it in May.
Hmm.
And then next thing you know, it's August, and next thing you know is today's the show.
Interesting. All right. All right. Well, I would say go get your tickets, but if you're watching it by now, the show didn't happen.
You gonna be telling us about it.
You should be telling us about it. So we gonna move on. So to everybody, I want to give a gentleman who we talked about today. He is with the Cleveland Centers for the Arts. Assembly of the Arts here in Cleveland, Ohio. He is the president and he's CEO. He runs that organization over there. He's going to talk to us a little bit about what the Assembly of the Arts is all about, as well as he's going to talk about issue that are on our ballot that we got coming up this year. Health and Human Services, Arts and Culture levy that is on the ballot. I have been always a supporter of that levy and the work that they do. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and get that information out to the public on how you can help and support the levy as well. So without further ado, everybody, I want you to give a warm welcome to our newest guest. He's our newest guest because this is the first time coming on our program, Mr. Jeremy Johnson. Jeremy Johnson. Shoot, I call him Johnson.
Wow,
Jeremy
thank you.
Johnson.
It's a pleasure. I appreciate the applause. Wow.
Oh yeah, man. We gonna make sure
I appreciate being here. Appreciate it.
We appreciate you coming on here, man. Like I told you, I'm a firm person who really are into the arts. I love music. I love arts. And getting into this podcasting thing, a young lady told me that I became a storyteller. So she said that, we tell stories and that kind of thing. So it makes me a little artsy in that regards too. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your afternoon with us to talk to us about what you guys are doing over there.
Well, storytelling is an art.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy to be here and thank you. My first time, hopefully not my last time on this show. I've been I know of your leadership in so many issues and bringing these issues to the fore. It's so important to have a communication platform to share with our communities what affects their lives. And that's sort of what Assembly is about. But I want to tell you a little bit about how I got here.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, our program, the way we work is we try to get a little bit in your business. So we want to know a little bit about your background. I hear you grew up in Glenville, Huff area. Give us your background.
Yes. I'm a PK. You know what a PK is?
I'm a PK.
I'm a preacher's kid.
Yeah.
So my dad was called to preach way back in the late 60s.
Mm-hmm.
We lived in Youngstown, but when I was 6, he was called to preach at a church on Quincy or on Woodland called New Bethlehem Baptist Church.
Okay.
It's still there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we made the trek from this steel mill city of Youngstown to Cleveland, my brother and I, and then soon my younger brother and sister who were born here in Cleveland. We moved to first we moved to Huff.
Okay.
We lived at East 90th Street in Huff. I went to the old Huff Elementary School, which is not there anymore. That's how far back I go.
Okay.
And then eventually we moved around a bit. We eventually settled in Glenville. I lived on Inglewood. I went to the old FDR Junior High School, which was the original Glenville High School.
Correct.
Everyone always asks me if I'm a tar blooder, and I guess I got to get half credit. My brother was a tar blooder, my brother Jonathan. I ended up going to high school at university school, but I went to public schools through 8th grade. And then
so you didn't get the pleasure of being able to be tagged a tar blooder.
Oh yeah, I missed out. Missed out on that. But
what year was that? You would have came
all right, now I'm going to age myself. Y'all don't tell anybody how old I am, but I graduated high school in 1979.
Okay. All right. So that's when Glenville was Glenville.
Glenville, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, you would have been in the class with a whole lot of folks that are around here now, right?
Yeah. When I got back to Cleveland 3 years ago, I became quick, fast buddies with a fellow Glenviller, Kevin Conwell. Turns out we were in the same.
Yeah, that's what
we had the same teachers, the same music teachers.
Exactly.
So that's been great just to reconnect with my old stomping ground after being away. Because after high school, I left for most of my professional career. Went out east. And it's just great to be back in the land.
Excellent. Did you, when you were in high school, was you an athlete? You played any instrument? Was you in the arts then, or what was your high school?
So to talk about why I'm in the arts now, I do have to go back to those early days. When we lived on Huff, I must have been 8 or 9. My mom, she made sure we had access to art and culture. She sang in a church choir, but she wanted us to do a little bit better, even though we didn't have a lot of money. So I would walk from East 90th Street all the way over to University Circle to the music school settlement to take piano lessons on Saturday. I would have these yellow books. They had these Shermer books. They were yellow. They looked very studious, but I would hide them under my jacket on Saturday. The other kids be out playing ball and everything. I didn't want to. What you doing? What you carry those books for? They'd be like trying to tough me up. So I would hide the books under my music book so I could get over there to the music settlement, and not everybody would know I was the nerdy piano player. But that played a big role, taking lessons there. And of course, Cleveland Public Schools back then, every year we would go to the Cleveland Orchestra. We would go to Karamu to see Black Nativity. Oh my God. My brother and I, my closest brother, Jonathan, we were 11 months apart. They had a term. I don't know if you can use that term, Irish twins, because we were very close. So we would just travel from Huff, literally. We would, because these were the days when parents didn't chauffeur you. As long as we stayed together, that was the rule in our family. Don't you two separate from each other. But we would head over to the Museum of Art. It was free. We go into the Hall of Knights, the Armor. We would just have a good. We would go to the Case Western Reserve Historical Society. Those cars they got in there. So it was amazing because we were in Huff, but like literally just was this amazing wealth of art and culture. And then down the road was Karamu. And then I had teachers in the schools. I mean, I could talk a long time about my teachers at Columbia Elementary School. They had a cultural heritage room. This was before DEI and curriculum. They said you were going to learn about your Black history. This was in the 60s and the 70s. Mrs. Sharp. If any of you all remember Mrs. Etta Mae Sharp, she had the Plain Talk Club. And we read a book called Unsung Black American Heroes. And if she called on you in her class, she's a Black teacher, you had to stand up and it's like we used to do Bible verses at home, but she had one called Name Your Black Hero and say something about him. So it'd be Garrett Morgan, and then at the traffic light, or Charles Drew, one of the first people to do open heart surgery, or Harriet Tubman, the Moses of her people. I mean, this was at a time nobody knew she was doing this. She did this with her class,
on her own.
Yes, she did. So that sort of poured into me, art and culture. The other thing she did, she would go to New York from time to time, and she would come back having seen all these Broadway shows. And she was just a regular class, but she would teach us songs from Oklahoma or Sound of Music.
All right.
She was amazing. So that sort of what poured into me. That plus being a PK, church all the time. You know what it's like. You're in front of people. You got to be in front of people to sing, to read the scripture, to lead. So that was sort of my pouring into me, and I conveyed that over to this arts world. I played the piano.
I was going to say, you played piano.
Played piano, led the junior choir, and then in college. Long story longer, I knew I enjoyed playing and singing, but I saw there were a lot of people much better than I said, but I liked being around creative people. So I eventually got into the business side. So if I'm not going to be on the stage, how can I support this? But the longer version of this is that I realized the arts bring people together.
That's correct.
Or you have to team up to do arts if you're in a band.
That's right.
If you're in a we got to work together. The choir's got to work with the director. The bass player's got to work with the percussionist. If you're in a dramatic production, there's a lot of teamwork, and there's nothing I love more than teamwork. How do we bring people together? How do we assemble people together? So most of my adult life has been bringing people together from disparate sections, whether it's been nonprofits, philanthropies, and now artists and arts people.
So we're gonna get into moving in, but how far did you go with this piano thing, man? When you say did you play? Are you good? I mean, you played in church, so were you a music? Where you took lessons so you can read music? Because a lot of
I
piano
both
players
read and play by ear.
play by ear. A lot of
So
them.
give me a hymn book. I can play anything in the hymn book.
Okay.
But that don't count for much lately. That does not count for
All right.
any hymn lovers out there. I'm the old style, Mahalia Jackson, James Cleveland.
If the
type of
piano player
banger.
ain't came in on Sunday, you can get us up there and get us through a service.
Exactly, absolutely. So, but also playing by ear. There's a fellow, and I was very young. His name was Professor Robert Riley.
Okay.
He sang in a lot of quartets around Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
He was my mentor who taught me how to play by ear. So as our church, my father's church, we would travel other churches with other choirs. He'd be playing and singing. And they said, Jeremy, get over here.
Okay.
He'd get up from the piano and start singing. I'd have to take over the piano. Talk about being on the spot. I was
being on the
11,
spot.
12, 13, 14
God.
years old. But those old gospel songs. So that's what I go back to. I just was a gospel piano banger.
So how about your singing? You say you was a singer too?
Well, you can't just play the piano. You got to sing. That's what I always love. The teamwork. I'm not a solo piano. I'll play if we all gonna sing. If I'm gonna play, we gonna sing together. We gonna play and sing. Okay. That's how we work. That's how we gonna work this.
Okay.
This ain't a show. We gonna if we gonna have church, we gonna have church.
Okay.
This is not. Things have changed nowadays, but I'm a real throwback.
Oh, I understand. So when you went to college, was it going to college because you was getting into arts? You wanted to go there in the arts field? What did you go to college to do?
So that's a whole nother story. And I told you I was at FDR Junior High. In 8th grade, there's a guy named Jeff Morton. He was basically, sometimes you have football scouts, basketball scouts. He was a scout for a program called A Better Chance.
Really?
And which puts urban Black and brown kids into elite private schools across the country. He came to FDR Junior High and other schools in Glenville. There's actually a bunch of Black kids who went to university school who were there because of this guy. He's still alive. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So he came to my school. Somehow he talked to my counselor. I took a test or something. Long story short, they told my mom, hey, her name, Mrs. Hicks, my mom. She said, Mrs. Hicks, your son, we want to put him into a private school out on the East Coast.
East Coast?
Boarding school. And my mom said, no, you ain't. But if you could find a school close by, maybe we could talk. So I did not end up going to one of those boarding schools out in New England, but university had a program, but it was a day school, so I could come home every day, and I could also play at my church on Sunday. Exactly. So that's you asked me how I got what happened with the music or the college, but anyway, university school. Oh, this is the point. When I said I would be in that program to go to this private school, they said you need to make a decision right now in 8th grade. If you're going to be in this program, you will go to college. Whoa. And if you have a question about that, don't even bother. So me and my mom, that was the time in 8th grade. If I'm going to be in that program, you will go to college. That was what they said. Don't bother to take all these tests because that's part of the deal. So that's really what put me on definitely a college track was getting into that college prep thing. And that was a game changer because being in Glenville, living near St. Clair and 105.
Where you lived at?
10614 Inglewood.
Yeah, I lived on Kempton.
What you say? Just a few blocks down.
And my DJ in there, who I gave the title as the best podcast producer, we done said Glenville about 150 times on this program. And we got a thing that we do when we say Glenville, and he hadn't did it to us not one time.
There you go.
There we go. we got a liking for Glenville. There we go. Here we go. All right. So that's what we do. Yeah, I grew up in that area. I lived down there 32 years, so about 35 years before I lived. So I grew up down there. So I understand.
We were right by Strouda's funeral home.
Yes,
you know exactly, where that is?
Exactly.
Grant's Groceries.
Grant's Groceries, right there.
I went to school at Noble Grant.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay. All right. Excellent. Yes, I knew the Grants. They used to still work in that store for a long time. The store was open. I think Mr. Grant and them had died right before I left. And like I said, that was a while ago. So yeah.
So a lot of memories. I guess you get old enough. I have a lot of memories there. And so now it's full circle. Decades later, I'm back.
Was it going to college because I wanted to go play music? I wanted to pursue music, or was you going to college to be a lawyer?
You know, don't tell anybody this, but I didn't know what I wanted to be. But I knew I didn't want to be on the street bumming cigarettes off people.
And you said you got to go to college.
Yeah, I knew I was going to go.
You knew you was going to go, right?
I knew I was going to go somewhere,
right?
Because U.S. and they publish every year. All the students went to this college, that college. I didn't want to be the one, the first time in history didn't go to college. That wasn't going to be me.
Right.
So, I did want to pursue music sort of, but I just wanted to learn more. So I loved economics in college. I thought I might be an economics major. Figure out how come some people are rich and other people aren't? Why are my people who live in Glenville struggling so much? Those questions we still have to this day. Now I know some of the answers.
Okay.
I didn't know those answers. Why? The whys. Now we know about redlining.
Right. Okay.
We know about other things. Why do we have to struggle so much? I didn't learn that in college, by the way, after all that.
Oh, no.
That came much later.
That comes from experience.
That came much later.
Yeah, much later.
But college was important for me just to get that degree. I was the first in my immediate family to go to college.
Okay.
I think my mom had graduated from high school. That was a big deal. I mentioned my father, Reverend Hicks, really my stepfather. I still call him my father because he raised me from the time I was 5. He had a 4th grade education, but he could lead a whole church and preach a sermon and be a carpenter during the week and a pastor and take care of a household.
Yeah.
Can you do that today? He had a 4th grade education from Mississippi.
Wow.
But he knew how to work a hammer and know how to lead a congregation. He knew how to preach. Accounted for a lot.
And every word in that Bible.
Absolutely. So, I bring to what I'm doing today a lot of that.
Before you get to that, okay. What did you major in when you finished? And then we're gonna get you into where you at.
So I majored in psychology. Okay.
Everybody seemed to go after all of that. Everybody seemed to go. Everybody say that. I was like, "What y'all end up majoring in?" Psychology. I was like, "No."
So after all that, so it's so funny because I didn't major in music. I hung out in the music department all the time, but I said I can't be a music major because I won't be able to make no money. So psychology, not that much more money to be made,
right?
But I went to a small liberal arts college and they taught a lot. And
where did you go?
I went to Kenyon College in Gambier, outside of Columbus.
Kenyon
College.
All right, I know that. I heard
Kenyon
it.
College.
Yeah. Okay, right.
And they focused on writing. Writing was a big thing for them. There was not a lot of diversity at that time on that campus.
I can imagine.
But it was known as really one of the top colleges. And so I was a psych major. But then after that, I came back to Cleveland for a couple years, worked at University Settlement, which is a nonprofit, does a lot of work with seniors, young people, housing, sort of cut my teeth. And that's where I learned about fundraising. Really? My boss said, I worked with youth programs there. And one day my boss, because our program, we didn't have a lot of money. I'm working with all these kids. They needed all this help. My boss said to me, well, Jeremy, your program is going to end unless you start raising your money yourself, because I'm too busy trying to do all these other things. You got to write your own grants,
really, for
your own program to serve these teenagers. And I started writing my first grants, juvenile justice prevention grants, United Way grants, to run my program, to keep my job.
Right.
I swear to you, that writing experience and that fundraising experience, right out of college, that has led me all the way 40 years later.
Wow.
When you raise money, you are a profit center for your organization. People can't let you go if you're bringing money in the door.
That's correct.
I don't care if it's nonprofit, for profit.
Right.
So I learned a lot from that, and I gained that experience. So on my resume, that was always first thing: grant writer, fundraiser. And then I blended that with arts administration. I eventually got a master's degree in arts administration.
So what made you get that?
I wanted to be around artists and creatives.
You still want? You say you went right back to it again. Where you go get the degree at?
That was University of Iowa, of all places. That's a long story too. But my best friend Tony, Tony Joseph, may she rest in peace. She died way too young. But she was going to University of Iowa.
How you end up in Iowa?
Because she was there, this famous program called the Writers Workshop. That's world-renowned program. And I was working in University Settlement, working with young people, writing grants. I said, I can't do this. This is good, but I can't keep, this is not what I really want to do. Tony said to me, Jeremy, you got to stretch out. You got to go on and come visit me at the University of Iowa. I visited her. They had a program for arts management. I didn't know Iowa from Idaho. I really didn't. But I was there. I applied to that program and got in, again, a graduate program.
Okay.
Ended up staying 3 years in Iowa City, loved it.
Really?
And this was the best part. While I was a graduate student, they had money in Iowa to send all their arts management students to New York. We would go to New York and we would intern, New York City.
Right.
And then I got an internship at Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts, the Lincoln Center.
I want you to stay on that point. Leah, if you want to go, you can go. We're good. I said, if you need to leave, we're good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're good whenever you're ready. Okay.
But I could bore you to tears.
No, because I was good there. And the reason why I wanted you to stay on Lincoln, because that was leading into my next question I wanted to ask you about the Lincoln Center, because at the Lincoln Center, you became an intern there, right?
It started as an internship.
Right.
And I interned in all these departments: archives, fundraising, marketing, community engagement. This is way back in the day.
Now, what is that for the people who don't know? What is Lincoln Center?
Lincoln Center was the first big art center that combined a bunch of different auditoriums to be like this critical mass of performances on the Upper West Side of New York City. Before that, you'd have maybe an auditorium downtown or this auditorium there. But this put 7 different big arts organizations together, and they built all these things around this big plaza with the fountain. If you watch a lot of movies, they show but this was the umbrella for the New York City Ballet, for for New York City Opera at the time, for the Metropolitan Opera, for the New York Philharmonic, for the Lincoln Center Library. Now they have Lincoln Center Jazz. Literally, all those groups are under the umbrella of Lincoln Center Inc.
Wow.
They're all, and many of them are part of that same big plaza. They just did a remodel of, they've done a lot of remodeling over the years, over the decades, but they've raised a lot of money. But I was right there in the mix of it. So the real estate tycoons of New York, as an intern, I would go to the big fundraisers. I would help out the staff. I remember meeting Beverly Sills one day, the big opera singer. She was coming to me. I'm just a green kid out of college. I'm just opening the door and make sure she get to the board meeting. And then I remember, oh my God, during the summer, I'd walk out from work and I could go to any show I wanted to. I remember going to see Jessie Norman, the great opera singer, at the Met, the Metropolitan Opera. And to me, she was physically and figuratively bigger than life.
Really?
This African-American woman who had just a voice like the angels and could command a crowd with power. And she followed in the tradition of Leontine Price and Marian Anderson, but she had hit the heights. And I got to see her there and so many others. And it goes back to that 5th grade. I told you about my teacher, Mrs. Sharp, who would come back from New York. And I felt I was sort of reliving that life. And I wanted to be around this art that inspires you, that brings people together of all colors and backgrounds. And so I saw that in church too. But it all came together in this art world. So that was, New York was something else. And then I came back to my regular job and now eventually back here to Ohio. But that was inspiring.
So what's your favorite part of the arts? Like with me, I like arts, but I can honestly say that music is probably my favorite music, but I do like art, like drawing art and picture art and that kind of art. I do like art. What music? What are yours?
Well, music has a probably the biggest role for me has been music. And my later,
Oh, well, you know, I'm gonna go with you because music is just a really good out for you. What type of music? Because you was talking about opera, you was going in there saying,
well, and gospel.
and, you know, so
I mentioned James Cleveland and
Okay.
Mahalia Jackson.
so you gospel
And
you
you
like
know-
opera though, huh?
Okay, this is a little secret. I'm a big opera fan.
Yeah,
I'm a
because you was
classical
naming,
music fan.
yeah, I can tell. That's why I'm asking. Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, if you've ever been to Grand, it's like because you got the visuals are just amazing. The
Really?
sound is coming to you.
Mhm.
You got the singers. You got the acting. Very expensive, but it's all coming at
Isn't
you
it
once.
in another language though? Isn't it?
It's
in a
that part.
Is it? Yeah, that part. You know that part that you there and you don't understand nothing that they're saying. Is that Italian?
That part. Oh, it's a lot of it is Italian. Yes, it is often in another. It's almost. I would almost say sometimes it's better when it's in another language because you got to go on the emotions.
Mm.
When people speak in tongues, do you understand
I
what they're saying?
understand, right? No,
But you know the emotion and the feeling of it.
that's correct.
And great opera, it does help to know the storyline. I'm not gonna make it up. You know the storyline. Somebody's gonna die. Somebody's gonna get
Yeah.
killed.
At some point.
But the power of the music for me,
Really?
I mean, if you ever felt the hair on your arms just stand at certain points with the height of the music,
The music.
and I've seen that with opera. But I've also been in a chamber music group or a jazz setting
Mhm.
where it's everything is so tight. I like intimate. I mentioned opera, which is a lot of
Really?
people, but I also like intimate performances where you're close to the folks.
Right.
Um,
So tell me, what's the best music experience you done had?
oh my goodness.
Let's go there then. You know, we off script. We don't know. So
off
what's
script.
the best music experience you done had? You done seen a lot. You done heard a lot.
I have.
And that could go from the biggest to the small. They could have been an intimate thing that made it all better.
So, you know, I have had a very unusual experiences that may be unique for people like me. I worked for a chamber music group. This is a classical music group, and they have different combinations. And I was a page turner. You ever see these old pictures? You see them on TV. Somebody's sitting next to the piano.
Yeah,
Now they got electronic things. They don't need you anymore. But you get to be. I enjoyed that. But one of the things that is, I mentioned this opera thing. I went to go see this one performance that I will never forget. It was called, oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. I'll go back. Oh, here, I'll use this one. I mentioned Jesse Norman. There is a French opera called Dialogues of the Carmelites. I might even heard that on the radio here in Cleveland when I was young. And it's about this group of nuns during the French Revolution, little history lesson. And the French revolutionaries, they were getting rid of everybody, including all the aristocracy, and they felt that these nuns were part of the aristocracy, or they're defending it. And so they came to the nuns and say, if you don't renounce your religion and everything, you're done with. And the nuns refused to do that. So in the final act of this opera, Dialogues of the Carmelites were they were nuns. They lived in, they didn't go out. They lived in, what do you call it?
One of the
They lived in the convent, and they didn't go out.
Yeah.
But they had to renounce everything. So these folks banged on the door, said, if you don't renounce it, you're done with. And they said, we're not going to renounce. So the last scene of this opera, the nuns say, you can take my head off, but I am here for God. So the last scene, there's this song. They're all singing it together as a group. They're like, maybe let's say they're 18 nuns. They're singing, and soon you hear 19 songs. But in the song, you hear boom. Then you hear 18 voices. They sing some more. You hear boom. Then there's 16. That boom is a guillotine falling. One voice. To the very end, there's one voice left. And different operas do. I saw this at the Met. And the nuns are just walking into this black, to the back of the stage. It just feels black. And you hear the boom.
Right.
There are no voices left. That's hard. I mean.
Yeah. Right.
It's by a guy named French guy named Francis Poulenc.
Wow.
Who's a very difficult music person, but that scene, and Jesse Norman was in this. The great Jesse Norman was in this way back in the day. So that was one of many, but I get really moved.
That sounds pretty good, man. Just hearing you talk about it, like, wow.
Stay for the last scene.
Yeah.
You got to sit through all the rest of that last scene.
Make it in the last scene. You'd be like, all right. This is what he told me about. Hold on, I'll be in the car like, wait a minute. Oh, okay, I'm up now. All right, you ready? All right, let's get to it. This is what he told me about. We came just for this.
Oh my God. And so it's, I have so many, I can recount. We can be here all day.
That's excellent.
I want to talk about visual arts because I didn't get into visual arts, but I have in my older years, I have learned a lot about visual arts. Part of my job now, I promote all kinds of artistry, and that's what I've loved the most.
So when you say visual art, let's talk about what is visual art?
Painting and sculpture.
That's what I was saying.
3D
visual arts. Okay.
And especially around Cleveland, we got artists. They're doing murals. They have these galleries. It is amazing. I mean, I'm now a collector. I use that term very loosely, but I bought art for my walls. Understanding the greats of art. I'm going to digress a little bit. The new head of arts in the city, her name's Rhonda Brown. She had a big exhibit. She just came in City Hall. She brought all these great visual artists, and they covered the walls in City Hall of living artists and some who've gone on during Black History Month.
Okay.
It was an incredible. And so I'm learning. I'm learning too. That's one thing I guess I you never stop learning. Excuse me. You never stop learning. And I'm always appreciate when I'm learning something new. So I'm really learning and enjoying this visual arts work and other things. We talk about technology as part of art. Whether it's working the cameras,
another part,
creativity,
right.
design, architecture. So sometimes in my field now, as I talk about my industry, I use a big umbrella when we talk about arts and culture. It isn't just painters, and it's not just dancers, and it's not just musicians. It's not just, but it's spoken. It's a whole bunch. It's media arts. So we in the industry, we use the term very, very large.
And it is large. And like you say, with the new technology and the video now and AI and everything now, art is just really starting to take on its own thing now, and it's good. I'm really glad in the direction that it's going, and it's easier for people to get involved in it now. Also, to express yourself. Most of the time, we're telling people, we want you to express yourself, be yourself, be out there, get a chance to do what you want to do. So it's a good time for the arts for everybody, I believe. So let's talk about now. You did that, you got your experience, and things was going well, and you decided to move back to Cleveland, or was you called back to Cleveland, or you decided to move back to Cleveland? Was it a calling?
A calling, I like that.
Was it a calling?
In a way, I said my father was called here. So I had gone through something. I had a partner. We got separated. I was flying solo in Cleveland, and where I was before. I was in New Jersey.
Okay.
To back up, I was in New Jersey for most of my adult career, and I had become head of an arts organization there. It was great. I worked with philanthropy there. Okay. I worked with the mayor of the city of Newark. Cory Booker was mayor, and then later Raz Barak. I worked with both of them. Two transitions.
That's what I wanted
to
ask
transitions.
I like
totally
both of those
folks.
guys, especially Raz Barak. Raz was really into arts now, wasn't he?
Still is.
Because it made me flash back and thought about it. He was into hip hop, rap. He was into all of that stuff. Raz was really good. Yeah.
He was on Lauryn Hill's album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. He's on that album.
Wow.
So yeah,
I forgot. I read that in your thing. I was like, that's the guy.
So to be able to work with that type of leadership, and then this opportunity came. You and I were talking earlier about what had started here in Cleveland with Tom Shorgall, with CPAC, the organization, and then Clevelanders 3-4 years ago said, we've got to get ready for the next, where we're going to go next. We've got a group called CPAC. We've got Cuyahoga Arts and Culture. We've got a political. We need to bring all these things together. And you asked, was it a calling? How did I get here? The long story is the stars really aligned. The opportunity, they were looking for a leader for those three organizations.
Okay.
I had risen modestly, I'll say, I had risen in Newark, New Jersey, and had done a lot with the mayor and with artists.
Mhm.
And I was thinking, what's next for Jeremy?
Okay.
I called a friend who had moved to Cleveland
Mhm.
from New Jersey. And I said, I'm hearing about some things are happening, motioning around, bringing the arts together. Is what's going on in my hometown that they're having this thing? Is it a good town to be in? And this person, I'll say her name, Dale Anglin.
Mhm.
She worked at the Cleveland Foundation. She said, Jeremy, Cleveland is off the chain.
Mhm.
The philanthropy here is growing. There's new leadership. We're going to be electing a new mayor. Our foundations have new leaders. The cost of living here is great. These parks, you can't. Dale Anglin,
Mhm.
who I knew from New Jersey, had moved here. Her husband was working at Cleveland State. She said, apply for the job, Jeremy. You're going to love it if you get it.
Mhm.
And she convinced me.
Okay.
Could I move back to Cleveland? And I have family here. Let's
Right,
not forget that. My
right.
sister, my brothers, I told you the
Right.
Irish twins, they're all
Exactly.
here in Ohio.
All right.
So I put in my application, and it took a while. It took 2 years.
Really?
Yes, it did. It's a long story. I won't go into the story because they were trying to figure out how these organizations were going to work together, and
Okay.
they changed it a lot.
Mhm.
But it was a 2-year process to get here. But I was committed, and they were committed,
Mhm.
and that's how it worked out. So they had the position that was open. I had risen. I had gotten very far, and I wanted to see. It's a bigger playing field. There's more. We don't have, there's nothing like Cleveland Museum of Art,
Correct.
probably anywhere in the world, but it's big.
Mhm.
These 100-year organizations here, the new leadership with the foundations,
Mhm.
Cleveland Foundation is the oldest community foundation.
Mhm.
And they were behind this movement for these groups to come together. I always like to follow the money.
Mhm.
I'm going to be transparent. What created my organization, Assembly?
Mhm.
A lot of that was philanthropy.
Okay. Okay.
Cleveland Foundation, the Gun Foundation, other foundations.
Mhm.
So they were helping to encourage this along.
Mhm.
So I'm saying I like working with philanthropists.
Oh, that's great.
So that was how it happened. So I did the interviews. It was keen competition, and here I am. I made it.
So let's tell everybody who don't know, as I tell people, my millions and millions and millions of viewers out there that watch our show. Why don't you tell them what is the Assembly of the Arts and what does it do?
That is great. So Assembly for the Arts, we are what I call an arts council.
Mhm.
There are arts councils in most big cities, and we bring all of the arts and culture together. We're not. Some people might call us a union.
Mhm.
Artists typically don't have a union. Arts nonprofit, but we bring everybody together. How do we advocate for all of us collectively?
Okay.
So that's what Assembly does, and we have a 2-pronged mission.
Mhm.
Forgive me for getting a little bit getting to mission, but let me make it simple.
Mhm.
The first part of our mission: expand the pie of resources.
Okay.
Because artists need money, they
Mhm.
need information, they need technology, and arts nonprofits need support,
Okay.
and they need somebody to bring them together.
Mhm.
So who's going to do that? So that's the first thing we do.
Mhm.
We expand the pie of resources. The next thing is really special. This is another reason why I was attracted to come here to work. We expand the equity. What do I mean by equity? Racial equity. Equity for those who've been left out.
Okay.
So here's it's not a secret. Cleveland is a city of 100-year-old institutions with endowments close to billions of dollars.
Mhm.
And with other institutions, but Cleveland also has a checkered past of how we support
That's correct.
folks of color.
That's correct. Mhm.
And this group called Assembly for the Arts says we're gonna make sure that there's representation and leadership. We're gonna find ways to increase that leadership. So among arts institutions, among nonprofits, among individual artists, that we're all rising.
Mhm.
So that is part of our challenge at Assembly,
Mhm.
to be both a source of information and a source for expanding the pie, but also increasing the equity. It's both of those. So that's probably the hardest part of what I do. Excuse me.
Okay. Great.
So that's probably a big part of what we're doing. So we have a whole bunch of things I could talk about.
No, you got to. You want anything else you want to brag about that you guys doing?
Well, I want to go back to a story.
You got
your
time.
colleague was talking about
we're
what
fine.
happened during COVID.
Okay.
He works. Tell me your name again.
Latif.
Latif.
DJ Latif.
Mhm.
He told
Yeah.
the story how everything dried up during COVID.
Mhm.
If you're in the arts, if you're doing church, whatever, it dried up.
Mhm.
Cleveland and Cuyahoga was no different. So this is what I'm proud about what Assembly was doing. We said to the county and to the city,
Mhm.
Mr. County official, Mr. and Ms. County official, Mr. and Ms. City official, you are getting hundreds of millions of dollars for COVID relief. Would you please invest in our artists and creatives?
Mhm.
Because they need relief. These folks haven't been working. So we at Assembly, we advocated successfully to get $3 million from the county into the hands of creative folks. And we also advocated for $3 million from the city to get in the hands of creatives. So we advocated. So if DJ Latif, I don't know if you applied, but
I wish I
a
would
year
have
and a
known
half
about
ago,
it.
we put out the word, especially in parts of our city and region that don't hear about these programs. Usually we hear about them
Mhm.
2 weeks before they're due. We said, apply for these dollars. So those jazz musicians who've been out of work, who were couch surfing, they got to apply for this relief funding. All you had to do was prove that you are an artist, show that you lived in the county of Cuyahoga County, and you got some relief dollars for being part of our creative culture. And thank you to the county for making that happen. And now the city has literally just put, it took them a year, but with Rhonda Brown being there, they have now announced 2 weeks, maybe 2 months ago, a month ago, $3 million going to for the Transformative Arts Fund. But we were the ones who originally started the advocacy to eventually get those dollars from the city and the county. So that's what Assembly does. We fight to get
So let
money
me ask you this.
and resources.
Go ahead, Chief.
So you got that money during COVID, and that was great for a lot of people that was able to find out about that program and apply. Now, is there any other programs that creatives now can apply for, or people that are, it's a big movie boom going on in Cleveland right now with a lot of independent filmmakers, a lot of videographers and photographers like myself. And we just need, funding to stay afloat, to get better equipment, to get, better business practices and paperwork behind us to be able to get to the next level. So is there anything currently going on right now for creatives?
There is a constant stream of activities. We just finished a cycle of funding. Again, I mentioned the Transformative Arts Fund that just finished it. And we are about to announce funding through our Creative Impact Fund for individual artists. That is already completed, but we're going to be getting ready for next year and the year following. So the answer is there's always something coming down the pike. Stay connected to us at assemblycle.org. We don't have an open application for something right now because we're just finishing up the applications that we've been working on over the summer and since the spring. But there will be other things that are coming down the pike. We have a program called Creative Impact Fund that's funded by Cuyahoga Arts and Culture. And we're about to announce in a month or so funding for individual artists of every discipline. These are going to be dancers, musicians, creative, interdisciplinary. You mentioned videography. So that will be announced. But I guess to answer your question, there is still not enough money. And we got to fight for more because art and artists, we are what make Cleveland. And the jobs, you mentioned the film industry. There is a lot happening there. And so I'm working to really build the relationships with them because having the film tax credit is going to be important. So we can get more movies done here. Did you talk to the film folks, Superman and other things? Here's another unfortunate thing. I learned that when those big movie things happen in the Cleveland area. They have committed to have a diverse workforce. I was shocked to learn they fly in diverse workers because there are not enough diverse people in the workforce right here.
Really?
That is what I was told.
That's different.
Yes, it is. We can't let that happen.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. Really?
So building up those.
I think that's more education, right?
Yeah.
People just don't know.
And we need to let them know. And that's one thing I pride myself on Assembly. I mentioned these grants. We didn't just put it on the website and just let the people who know the secret handshake or the where to go. We went into Glenville. We went into Larchmere. We went over to Clarkville. We held sessions.
Right.
To, hey, here's what you need to know. Here's how you apply. That's how we distributed those the ARPA funds, they were called, those
Right.
relief funds. But it wasn't just stick it on the website and only the people in the know. That's a big part of our job. How do we get being here? How do we get the word out?
Exactly.
Because you say people don't know. Our people don't know,
They don't know.
and they may not be searching their websites and all the time.
And they're not.
How do we communicate with each other?
Exactly.
We're probably watching the podcast of Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell.
Most people,
Right.
every Wednesday, they watch this. We can go through a little speed round with you real
All
quick.
right.
There's been some controversy around funding and equity in the arts. Critical argue that resources aren't being distributed fairly. And how do you respond to that? And that's been going on for years, even when we first started doing and it got better. So I can honestly say in the beginning, when we did the very first arts and culture levy and the funds were out there were organizations like Caramoo and others who always, was complaining that they wasn't getting their fair share. We went through the situations where people had to, applications were done over, having the proper paperwork to apply for the loans. It was a whole lot that over the years took place and got better with this process. So I'll be the first, because I tell you, I'm a friend of the arts and I know the arts background. And there's some people who still feel, it's because everybody can't always be helped. So there's always some people who always feel that there's not. How do you address that situation with people telling you that these days? Because I know you hear it.
No, that's a really good question. One reason why Assembly was created with 26 board members who look like you and look like me, and they're brown and they're black and they represent nonprofits, but they're also artists and major organizations, is so that we can be more intentional about touching and investing in people that have been left out, including black and brown people. And I will stand on this as long as I have breath, that as long as I'm in this position, we will make sure that black and brown folks and those who've been left behind are aware of our programs. So working with people like Councilman Kevin Conwell, I mentioned him. If I mention all the council people, I love all of you.
Well, we know why, Kevin.
But
Kevin's
he and
all
I,
in it.
We made sure. And,
Exactly.
But the other council members are also working with us. And also the county council. I was asked directly this question by County Council President Pernell Jones when they awarded us the $3 million to go into these. He said to me, it's on tape. He said, "Are you going to make sure that these dollars get to minority folks?" I said, "Absolutely," and we did that. We did that. So it is across the board. The funding has to go to folks across the board but we got to continue to work at this. It's not just public dollars, but it's what do we look like as a city? How many arts groups are there that are led and that are serving diverse communities? How? And I will say we've come a long way, and we got a long way to go. A long way to go. No, it's not just the arts. I mean, you have people sitting behind this mic every week, right?
That's correct.
And we're talking about disparities.
That's correct.
The arts fit into that. They're part of that. And we see ourselves as not only arts, but we're working with, whether it's groups like Birthing Beautiful Communities.
That's correct.
Or groups that are working on voters' rights and Cleveland Votes. We partner with them. And how do we use arts to do that? So I'm answering a question in a long-winded way, like I always do, to say we have a long ways to go, and we are committed to this. Our board is committed to it. I'm committed to it. And I think the proof is in the pudding with those ARPA relief dollars, that we made sure that folks knew how to apply for those and get those dollars.
And get those dollars. In recent requests, a recent request for tax levy funds for Cuyahoga County Arts and Culture 235 is stirring up a little bit of debate. Some argue is it necessary. Others consider is concerned about the tax increase because of and I'm not mistaken. This is a sin tax. Am I correct? This is not a property tax.
That is correct.
So this is a sin tax. So we clear on that, people. This is not a property tax. It's a sin tax. And so let's talk a little bit about the levy, what's coming up, and what's your takes about, whether or not the arts need more money. Your tickets over there cost a lot to get into your plays already, y'all, and you got a big chandelier standing outside. Do you need more money, man?
I want to say half of the events that are of the groups that are supported by this tax are free. Says it right here.
So, before you get into that, why don't you tell everybody what the levy is? Because people don't know. Because remember, we got millions of people watching.
There's a lot of excitement around November.
Yeah, so
I won't get into.
Let's talk about
we have the top of the ticket. There's a lot of excitement and buzz. That's not the topic today.
Right.
But as you go down the ballot, there's going to be a question, and it's going to be about arts and culture.
There we go.
We don't have the issue number as I speak to you. We will have that in a few weeks.
Okay.
But here is what I want people to know. Vote yes for arts and culture. And you know why?
Okay.
Do the arts have enough money? No, we do not. In fact, we have less money now. When the voters back in 2006 and in 2000, when they voted for this sin tax, the tax is on cigarettes. So the good news, you've heard this before. The good news is fewer people are smoking. Every year and every month, fewer people are smoking. The bad news is because we have built all the support for arts on the cigarette tax, there's less and less money. Literally every month.
Right.
It is down almost 60% from where it started.
Wow.
So Karamu House, Japo African American Dance, you name the group. There's some 400 groups. If they were getting funding when this first started, now they're getting 60% less funding.
Wow.
And guess what?
Wow.
If this isn't renewed, or if this isn't replaced, they're going to get 30% less starting next year.
Wow.
This is why we started this. We've got to continue this. And this is desperate times. The cost of lights, the cost of people, inflation. We were already on a downward trend. We've got to do this. And it's a small price to pay, 1.5 cents additional per cigarette.
That is really wild because you thought about it. So I guess, because there has been a really big push for people to quit smoking and all the other stuff with Cleveland Clinic and some of these other places where they kind of say, you think about it, you're right. I would imagine you guys are taking a hit as a result of that.
It's been a huge hit. And it's a good thing. We want fewer people to smoke. But we need to add this on to get us back.
We need to add it to the marijuana tax. That's what we need to do. If you can put it over there, I think we'll be fine for the rest of your life.
Well, we're just starting with that is coming out. We're waiting for the state legislature, and we're not just waiting. We're following the state legislature. We got our eyes on that. That's the other thing.
That could be a possibility.
So that's the other thing that Assembly does. Say, what do we do?
Right.
We keep our eyes on what is happening in Columbus.
Right.
And here in Cleveland, and even in Washington, D.C. So how do we help bring home the resources? So if we're not going to do it, who's going to do that fighting? So we're fighting for folks, even if they don't know we're fighting for them. So that's one thing. So we literally are paying a lobbyist in Columbus to keep an eye on things, what's going on with the marijuana situation. How do we build a relationship so we can build that in for the future?
All right, let's talk about the future. Looking ahead, what are some of the top priorities over at the Assembly for you in the next 5 years or so? A few years.
Oh, you're gonna do 5 years. I was just gonna say November. Let's
go November.
So, but I can go beyond that. The main thing is getting this tax covered. You know why? I'm going to put it in dollars and cents. our projections show that if we can pass this movement, I know Kevin Conwell says, don't call it a tax, call it a movement. This movement to vote yes for arts and culture. That means some 400 arts groups will benefit from $160 million over 10 years that they don't have right now, and those numbers are going down. So that's my first priority. That is my first priority. November, I'm going to be voting the top of the ticket. I won't tell you, but you know who it is. But also the bottom of the ticket, we've got to vote yes for arts and culture. There's also the education levy is on there. Support CMSD, please. We need to support that. After November, we have our ongoing program. So we heard DJ Lateef ask us, what are the new dollars for arts? We got to be working on that as we get into December, January, February of next year. So working on new programs. And where are artists having their studios? We need a cultural plan for this region. And thankfully, we're talking right now with philanthropy. What is the cultural plan for our region? Where are the nodes of investment? I like what's going on in St. Clair Superior. How do we bring that together? What's going on, Larchmere near Shaker Square? We've got some places where we're just robust. I love University Circle but beyond that, what do we have? We love what's happening downtown. And yes, I'm a fan of Playhouse Square and the Rock Hall.
Right.
I am there. I'm literally there. And we have to, at the same time, talk about our neighborhoods, don't we? So Assembly is about how do we invest in our neighborhoods and those who are lifting it up. There's some things going on in Huff and Midtown we're excited about investing. So that's going to be coming out and moving out as we move beyond the election cycle. How do we keep building that out? And looking at, I call it the three-legged stool. The arts ecosystem, we got a bunch of nonprofits. That's what this levy is going to support. But you also have individual artists that maybe some of them work for nonprofits, some of them don't. How are we investing in them? That's the second leg of the stool. The third leg of the stool often doesn't get talked about that much, but it's equally a part. And that's our for-profit businesses that are involved in the creative industry, whether it's music venues,
That's correct.
it's architects, it could be studios like this.
Right.
These are small businesses. And I have often felt like small business gets a lot of lip service, but not a lot of attention, not enough investment. We're happy to see more talk coming out of City Hall with the mayor and more with the county. And we got to stand behind them. How do you invest in small businesses?
That's in arts, because we talk a lot about the dancing, the singing that goes on in there. But the business of the arts, like you talk about the facility, the lights, the camera, all this.
You said you were closed down.
Right.
So I got an email from my friend who owns a music venue. He said his electricity was out for 5 days. He talked to some other music venues. He says they're down $45,000.
Wow.
Just because of the storm we just had.
Correct.
Who's advocating for that?
That's correct.
That's lost money. That's people that didn't get paid. That's the food they had to.
Shows that then got canceled.
Who?
I said that's shows that got canceled.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we at Assembly, we want to be the advocate. We want to be the squeaky wheel. We're not going to do it all ourselves, but can we be the squeaky wheel to advocate for all three legs?
All three legs, correct.
All three legs.
It's necessary.
Yeah. So
let's talk about your artist leadership residency. What is that all about?
That was really great. When I first started 3 years ago, we brought together 24 different artists. Some were one owned a gallery, some were two-dimensional artists, some were spoken word. And we provided them with basically business training. We brought in speakers that were good at accounting and marketing, and we had support. I'm a fundraiser. Thankfully, one of our local financial institutions, Huntington Bank, supported that, and they've supported that for 3 years to allow us to provide these wonderful artists and creatives with the type of business training that they might not otherwise, so they can be more successful. So we've continued that now for 3 years. We partner with people. This one man, Jordan Wong, has a program called No More Starving Artists, and he's successful in his own right. And we put folks in that program. So we do a lot of partnering. So the Artist Leadership Residency was one way, and now we're continuing that. We're partnering with groups like Cozy, which they focus on small businesses, but we put an artist spin on this, so artists can understand how they're doing. We're working with a group called Creative Meetups. I'm going to get all the names wrong, but we try to go to the professionals, experts at business, put that artist twist on it so they can talk to and train creatives. So that's part of what we're doing. And these programs are available for little to nothing. In fact, in some cases, we provide the creatives with a stipend to pay for their time to sit through these programs.
Really?
Wow.
Really, yes.
Wow.
For their time, absolutely. That's where Huntington comes. They help make this possible. So not only time is money.
Right.
And one thing that is changing these years, you probably know this, we can't keep expecting community people to give up their time, of their social capital, their knowledge of community. And nonprofits are guilty of this. I say that as a nonprofit myself in my past life. Can you be on this committee? I only need you to come once a month for the next 12 months. You're going to tell me what the needs of your community are. Okay, maybe you'll come to the first meeting. Maybe you come to the second. But the third meeting is like, how much of me are you going to tap out of volunteerism? Volunteerism is good, but I think we got to be very careful. So sometimes the money needs to go in the other way. Here's a stipend. It may not. It may not. But you using your gas money. You babysitters. Your time is money. And so I truly, I'm not the only one saying this. A lot more foundations and philanthropists realizing we can't just keep having all these advisory groups without compensating, because I get paid to be here. I'm paid to sit here and talk to you. That's great.
Right.
But the community folks, the arts folks, they are not. And we have tapped them. We've asked them, what do you need? We've asked it 1,000 times. We got more white papers and black papers on this than you can shake a stick at. When are we going to invest in those? This isn't just artists. This is community people doing the work. But we keep saying, can you just come and volunteer your time one more time? Have you heard that?
I done heard it. Listen, you know how many people calling me asking me to sit on stuff. Hey, here's a good question for you. With the ongoing need for public art, how do you envision the future of the public art in Cleveland, especially in the light of nearly $3 million in recent awarded to the new projects?
Wow. Those are some great questions. Those are great questions.
I try.
What we're going to see, I think, is really just going to blow our socks off.
Really?
They announced the 7 winners. I mean, this has been a long time coming, right? It's taken a year for them to announce the 7 winners of the Transformative Arts Fund. They will be transformative. Some, I mentioned, some are focused on babies, and some are focused on the environment. Some are, almost all of them are focused in communities of need.
Okay.
It was a lot of money. It wasn't my decision, by the way, but our leaders in City Hall with an arts committee, they said, we don't want to just provide a few $100 or $1,000. We want this to be transformative. So the average grants, they're $250,000 to $350,000.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, I did hear about that. I heard about that.
They've been announced, and this is out of the city of Cleveland, the mayor's office. Rhonda K. Brown is the senior strategist there. This is a game changer. These projects will be beginning in a matter of weeks and days.
Okay.
They will go for just about a year. Performances, installation, public art, it's a whole mix.
Really?
Absolutely. You're going to see them in Huff. You're going to see them in Mount Pleasant. You're going to see them on the west side. there's all manner. I'm happy to send you that list of who
Sure,
who got
I'd love
these.
for you to do that.
And what's really interesting, each of these projects, it's an artist, but the artist is working with an institution they have to partner together. So there's one project, it's the Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority, CMHA,
CMHA
is working with an artist who is focused on Black women and Black babies and maternal health, but she's using art as a tool for this. That's pretty amazing. That's just one project. Another project is they're all partnerships. So it's also meant to encourage partnerships. So I'm very, very hopeful for this, that it's gonna, and I'm always about fundraising. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, how do we begin to match this $3 million? There were how many? There were over 100 applications.
Wow.
7 were funded. So that tells you how much the demand is.
That's correct.
All of these applications were partners of artists and institutions.
Wow. Wow.
So there is demand, and there are folks out there doing the work already. So how do we turn this around? So I'm using this as data to say, how can we get more resources beyond the 7 that got funded?
Well, here's my last question for you. If you could give one piece of advice to a young person, especially those from the underrepresented community, what would it be? What would make a difference in art? What would it be if they can make a difference in art today? And you say, I'm going to give you some advice, young man. If you do this, I think you're going to make a big difference in art in the future. What would it be?
Show up. Even though I just did this whole rant about people showing up and not getting paid.
They show up though.
But they show up. And those who get the attention are what show up at what? Jeremy, what do you mean show up? If you have access to a phone or even to City Hall, to County Council, there are so many things happening that are free where you can get your face and your art in front of other people. Festivals, meetings, become a familiar face if you can. I know you're trying to work. You got 3 and 4 gigs. You're trying to pay the rent, but if you could find a way to show up, bump into me, let me give you a good example of why it's important to show up. The former program director for the Cleveland Foundations for their Big Arts program, his name was Boris. He's not there anymore, but when he started 2 years ago, he was offering, every time we went to a meeting, he says, hey, I would like to have coffee with anybody who wants to have coffee with me. Here's a guy who's in charge of millions of dollars. And he was asking people, artists and creatives, just have coffee. He told me hardly anybody took him up on that offer.
Really?
Yes, he did. Show up. Part of it is we think we can do everything from behind our phone and behind our computer, behind our screen. You can do a lot from there, but you gain more by that face-to-face. As a person who went to almost every city council meeting when I first got here, they got tired of seeing. But I'm just there to say, hello, how you doing, Councilman? How you doing, Council President? I'm Jeremy Johnson. I don't know if you remember me. And they see me again. Then they see me again. They see me. They show up. Make your face and your art known. Yeah, you do need to have your website and everything. But for starters, if you can find a way to show up, and not everything you have to pay for. There are community meetings all over.
That's correct.
City council is free. That's correct. Yeah, you got to get down the park. I get it.
If you go there, don't they give you free parking?
Yeah, they do have free parking now. So yes.
Yes, sure. You got free parking down there.
So I mean that may seem kind of rudimentary saying show up, but for me that has been the biggest thing.
What to me when I hear show up is the thing I tell my kids, and even it's like being prepared, being ready, being in the position to get the opportunity. They said, just don't knock at your bedroom door It don't knock at your front door. It knocks outside of your house, outside of your street, and you have to go get it. And when I hear you say show up, it's like exactly that, man. Get up and show up, and get yourself out there and make yourself known.
Because that's what I look at as I'm hiring people. Part of
Right.
our biggest thing with Assembly, we need people that know how to do graphics and do
Mhm.
digital things,
Mhm.
but also need people that are going to be out there representing us and sharing the word.
That's
Two
right.
of my hires, one of my first hires I made,
Mhm.
Deidre McPherson, she's our chief community officer.
Mhm.
I first met her, she was at Public Square under a tent. They were having some festival, there was a tent, and she was just there representing the dance community, talking about dance. And she knew everything about Cleveland. She's talking about, oh, you're Jeremy. Oh, nice to meet you. But I've been out here just promoting arts, and I love it. I love the arts here. I've worked here. So I kept in the back of my mind, that woman.
She showed up.
And when I needed a person to
Mhm.
represent us and to be our, long story short, I made sure I called her
Mhm. Mhm.
because I kept seeing her a lot of places.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Another story, Veronica Thornton, African American woman. She's worked with nonprofits, with St. Luke. She's done outreach for health and other things. I kept seeing her show up. I saw her at a philanthropy event early on a Saturday. She came up to me and says, I've been trying to call you. You never return my calls. I said, okay, let's talk. But when she got to be in face to face, and I ended up hiring her for a big project we did last year, and we were surveying arts organizations
Mhm.
to see their economic impact. She was
Okay.
our key consultant.
Okay.
It all started because
Mhm.
I saw her showing up. She was out there in front of people, showing up,
Mhm.
community events, arts events.
Mhm.
Who shows up, and who can connect to community?
That's correct.
So those, and artists, I think it's the same way.
Mhm.
The artists who keep winning awards, they tend to be the ones that I keep seeing they showing up.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Hey, brother, I really appreciate you coming on our program. You did an excellent job. You enlightened us. We got a lot of information. As you see, we got arts in our title, and me and Latif made such a big deal about you because you are. We had a couple of musicians on that
we
did
had
art, so
Joe
we can say we
Little
did
on.
dibble in art. But we
Absolutely.
got the man about arts in here today, so we can officially say we are about arts on this program. And I'm really glad you were able to help us do that.
Hey, I got one more question.
Sure.
This was a good show. Now, I've been a promoter for a long time, and there was a program up in Akron where some promoters were getting funded by a foundation, and the name of their group was called Keepers of the Art. And then just recently, the city has been partnering up with promoters to do shows like at the Akron Civic. And I just want to know, is there any programs like this in Cleveland where a promoter or an organization can get funded or partner up to get funds to put on a show or put on an event with an artist, like a major artist, a national act?
That's a good question. First off, kudos to Akron. I've been really impressed by what I'm seeing coming out of Akron and their art scene and what's happening around downtown with their institutions and the leadership and the storefront program where they're putting art in storefronts. It's been just incredible. I don't know if we have a program exactly like the one you're talking about in Cleveland, but I would say it would be great if we developed one. I would say that.
Yeah, because like all my promotional life, I've had to deal with, investors putting up my own money. I never had an entity, an art entity, or a city or foundation type entity to take interest in putting on that kind of art or backing that kind of art.
You're talking about for promotions, promoting us.
Yeah, for promotions and bringing artists like national artists or regional artists into the city and putting on shows and productions.
I think that is an area. We were talking about the small business part of this whole ecosystem. That is certainly an area there that we need to think about. the whole world, I mean, especially in America, it's becoming more and more difficult for promoters, because if you're not part of one of the monopolies,
You're like Live Nation or AEG.
I'm not going to say any term, but it's like these global chains have sort of pulled out the rug from local promoters, regional promoters, and we need to stand up for the local small businesses, the local promoters, more so. News about how difficult it is because these large entities are sucking the life and the money out of our local dollars and of the both audiences and local performers.
All right, well, I definitely appreciate that, and we're gonna end our show. So, if there's anything you would like to say to our audience, look into your camera straight ahead. Let them know, all about the Assembly of Art, how they can get in touch with you, how they can get those face-to-face, those coffee extravaganzas to really develop their art and really come into out of the starving artist category.
Absolutely. We want artists to come out of that starving artist category. We want to stay connected with you. We want to make sure we have a strong, robust arts and culture environment. The one thing I want to leave with the viewers and the listeners: vote for arts and culture in November. Very simple. If you can you just go to your phone, do voteforarts.org, voteforarts.org. There's a lot of information there, or even a little bit of information. You can work with us. You could volunteer if you want to show up, volunteer, or at different events and help us spread the word, because we need to invest in our arts community. Voteforarts.org.
Thank you for coming on our
program. Thank you for having me.
We're glad you came on. We're looking forward to doing a lot of other opportunities with you and other artists in our town. Use us as a sounding board for the Assembly. If there's any other programs or anything else you think in the future you want us to know about or something, please let us know. We will get the word out for you. And everything you want to know about the Assembly of the Arts, information about the Levy, as well as any more information you want to know about Mr. Johnson, you can look in the description. We'll have in the description all the links, and you can be able to find him there. Until next time, peace. Thanks for coming.